All right, welcome to the Beehive Marketing Podcast. My name is Shane, and today I have a special guest for you. The guest is David Jenyns, who is a serial entrepreneur, systems devotee, and founder of SYSTEMology, a fantastic book. This company is dedicated to helping business owners worldwide scale and streamline their operations with over 20 years of experience in franchising, digital marketing, and business strategy. Jenyns has established himself as a trusted leader in the industry. After successfully systemizing his own digital agency in 2016, Jenyns turned his attention to helping others achieve the same level of success. He founded SYSTEMology, a proven 7-step process for managing clients and implementing systems in their businesses. Today, his mission is to empower business owners to work on their businesses, not in them. Through his workshops, keynote addresses, and podcast, Business Processes Simplified, Jenyns has helped thousands of business owners achieve exponential growth and success. He is a passionate advocate for leveraging systems to simplify and streamline business operations, and his commitment to excellence has earned him the trust and admiration of his clients and peers alike. And without any further ado, let's bring on Dave. Dave, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, great, Shane. Looking forward to diving in.
Yeah, I'm so honored to have you on this channel. About 3 weeks ago, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who Allan was until I came across his book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, which I have here. I decided after reading a chapter, I thought, you know what? I'm going to get off my butt and I'm going to build a YouTube channel dedicated to his book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, with the hope of getting him on my channel as a guest. That was the whole plan behind it. And I created it almost identical to the One-Page Marketing Plan. And I thought, you know what? After maybe 1,000 subscribers, maybe I will send him a message and then ask him to be on my show. And then a little voice said, you know what? Message him now. So I sent him an email. He checked out my channel and he said, your channel is just a little bit too much like the One-Page Marketing Plan, because I called it the One-Page Marketing Plan Insights. He says, it's too close. It's too close to my book. I appreciate your effort, but if you could just change the name, I would be honored to be on your channel. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll change it. So I changed it to the Solo Marketing Podcast real quick. And then he said, and also for doing that, I'm going to send you an autograph book as well. So that's how I got to know Allan. And I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. But in his book and also on his channel, he reviewed your book, SYSTEMology. So I'm like, oh, well, I got to check that book out. So I read this book in like a day. And then I read his other book, Lean Marketing. And then I picked up this book, SYSTEMology. And in the last 2 weeks, I've read this book twice. Read it twice, and I've listened to it once because I strongly believe in the idea of buying the audiobook, buying the digital book, and then if you like it, you buy the physical book, because then I can add it to my library. That's kind of how I work. And I thought it wouldn't be fair of me to ask you to come on my channel if I didn't read your book. So welcome.
What a great story. Gets us all up to speed. And I'm excited to see what you took from it, what the big insights and learnings were. And then we can tailor the message to the solopreneur. Because when I originally wrote the book, it was for business owners with small teams. But I'm finding the message resonating more and more with solopreneurs. And there are just a few tweaks that I'd recommend to make sure that it fits like a glove.
Yeah, for sure. And I have some questions for you. And it's such a weird, like, sometimes I think we live in a matrix. I really do. Sometimes the way stuff works out. I watched your podcast. I think it just came out yesterday. I watched it this morning with Bill Kennedy.
Yes, 80/20 CEO.
Yeah, I never heard of that book. So now I'm reading that book right now because it's amazing. And I watched your podcast and I thought what attracted me was the bee on the front of his cover. I'm like, oh, I got to check this out. So I watched it and I thought, okay, that's amazing. So I'm going to read his book. I'm actually right now in the middle of reading Traction
Yeah.
by Gino Wickman because I know you had mentioned in the questionnaire that I left that he is one of the, I think, one of the authors that you suggested that every solopreneur should have on his bookshelf. So I bought the audiobook, I bought the digital book, and I'm also going to go to Indigo and buy the physical book as well once I'm done reading it. So, but I have some questions for you. And I noticed in your podcast yesterday, you guys were talking just a little bit about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Artificial intelligence. So what I did is I tweaked my questions to kind of be a little bit of a hybrid, coming at it from a Beehive marketing podcast perspective and asking you questions about your book Systemology with a little bit of a slant towards perhaps asking questions about artificial intelligence and what your
Yeah, let's
thoughts.
do it.
I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are on
I
that.
love it. When I first wrote Systemology, AI was not at the level as it is today. So a lot has changed and it's starting to shape the way that I think about process and what's important. And it's made me realize that process is more important than ever because the process that you document ends up becoming the programming for the machines. So
Mhm.
that's probably some of the topics that we can explore, but it's now more critical than ever to get this right.
Yeah, it's ramping up. I don't think 4 years ago for me it wasn't even on my radar, and now it's everywhere. Like I use a software program called Thrive Themes for building websites.
Hmm.
It's incorporated in there. Host Zinger is incorporating AI as well. It seems like every piece of software that you touch, HubSpot now is
Yeah.
incorporating it. I don't know if Slack is, but these are the tools that I use. And again, it's based on really these, I would say, I'm building my YouTube channel around these three books here:
Yep.
Systemology, Lean Marketing, One Page Marketing Plan, and then I'll continue to read more books and build my channel out like that. But it's right now the way I look at this is it's a bit of a beehive, and then as I gain more knowledge, I just build it out, and I look at books as basically honey, and then I look at your experience as basically the nectar. It's kind of how I
Yeah.
look at it.
I,
So
I love it.
so I,
What I love most about the one page marketing plan and the way that Allan thinks about marketing
mhm,
is his systematic approach. I think of a
mhm,
lot of the work I do with systemology is foundational thinking for how to build business and how to look at the way that your business works. And it
yep,
goes cross departments, as in it affects sales, marketing, client delivery, finance, like it affects everything. And Allan has got that thinking and then narrowed down specifically to the
yes,
marketing department. So you'll be able to take this knowledge and then really start to put it into multiple different departments. And it's funny because the marketing department is often one of the least systemized for many businesses because people see it as so creative. And Allan calls it most businesses are doing random acts of marketing when
yes,
really you need to
yep,
be doing a
yep.
consistent, systematic approach to marketing.
Yeah, it has to be almost built into your culture or your system as you go. It's almost everywhere. Like really, when you think about it, marketing is actually everything you do, who you are, everything.
Yep.
Your emails, everything that you send out, it's all that's all a piece of you. Like that's all marketing. Even network, even going out to an event somewhere talking, you're marketing. Sorry, you're just marketing. Like you guys have books, which is great. This is like a glorified business card. You
Yep.
just drop that on the table, boom, people are just signing deals right away. Done. Because now
Yep.
your authority is so high, right? Because you have a book. So that's kind of cool. So I have a couple, just a couple quick questions here. And then if there's anything you want to deviate or hone in on, we can do that as well. So the first question is, in my analogy, a business is like a beehive with systems as the structure that holds everything together. How does systemology act as the hive that keeps the bees, i.e., the team members and processes, organized and efficient? That was a long
I
question.
I might need your help to
Okay,
translate it to the Beehive methodology. I've
sure.
got a um, the metaphor I use, and I reckon
Yep.
it's going to make it so obvious for you to transfer the two.
Okay.
I think of business, it's a system,
Mhm.
just like the human body. So the
Yep.
human body is a system, and there are subsystems within that human body. There's cardiovascular, respiratory, skeletal, and these subsystems, if they're not healthy and they're not running the way that they should, they bring down the overall health of the human body. And if
Yep.
one of these subsystems fails, then the body dies. It's the
Yep.
same in business. So your
Yes.
business is a system. There are these
Mhm.
subsystems: sales, marketing, operations. And each one of those subsystems has a responsibility to the business. If it fails to do what it is meant to do, so marketing needs to generate leads. If it
Yep.
fails to generate leads, the business will get very sick. Or if it just completely fails, the business will die, because
Yes.
all business needs some form of leads coming in. All business needs some mechanism to convert those leads into clients. So that metaphor is the one that I use. I think there's probably elements in that where you're just like, "Ooh, I can
Yep.
see how this fits into the beehive."
100%. Yeah, 100%. And to use your book as an example, like when you have the person that's in charge, the owner, and I also got this from your friend as well, Michael Gerber.
Yep,
Great story how you guys got together. I think it was Michael's wife that
that's right.
contacted you. And what's interesting is your physical book is actually different than your audiobook, because in the audiobook, I actually got to listen to the phone call, the actual phone call. And I thought, and that is your voice, right? Like you've
Yep,
actually narrate. Okay. Because I thought that's genius. That's the beauty of basically why you need to get the audiobook, because it's different at the end. And there's some parts in it that's basically you can actually elaborate a little bit as well instead of just going
yep,
word for word. And then also the physical book is a little bit different from the Kindle book, because in the Kindle book you have the PDF and you got all the documents and everything, links and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. But with your conversation with Michael and spending time with him, like he's a big fan of selling businesses, big fan, getting it to that point where you're going to sell it. And I think in your book Systemology and encapsulates that whole idea is you're building the whole system, building, again, back to my world, the hive.
yep,
Without the queen, there's nothing, like nothing. You're not going to get female workers, which is what they are. Like statistically, people have never, I would say it's rare to see a male bee, because they don't just go to flowers. They don't end up in your wine glass or anything like that. You just don't see them. But if you don't have a queen, it all falls apart. So in with your book, you have the person that's in charge, the owner. He can't do everything, but he can have the idea, hey, we need to get a system in place. And then you go out and get like your systems champion, people that actually can, we all know who those people are, that they just love to document everything. They're the guys taking the notes. They got the iPhone. You might be asking, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just documenting what you're doing. Get out of here with that camera. Like, I'm talking to a customer. But they want to record everything. And I think those are the people that you use to help you document, because if you're the owner, man, it's painful to document everything and to go backwards. It's painful. And if you think about a queen bee, she's not going to guard the gate. She's not going to do that. She's not going to fly out and pollinate all the flowers and everything and bring it back and have some royal jelly and all that kind of stuff. That's not her job. Her job is basically to go over the honeycombs, and whenever she sees a big one, she knows, oh, I'm going to lay an egg that's going to be a male, a drone. And then if she sees a smaller honeycomb, she's going to lay a female worker because the workers are smaller. And that's what she does. She'll lay thousands of eggs a day. That's her job. Now,
Yep.
if your boss does that, the guy that owns the company, like, he's not going to be good to anybody. So I think we're similar, like in
Yeah.
your book, Systemology, that you need a system in order, and you just got to start somewhere. Maybe you could talk about that, but like
Yeah.
there's one chapter in your book that talks about building systems. That's kind of
Yes.
interesting in itself, right? It sounds
Yeah.
complicated, but I think it feels like it's necessary.
Yeah. So I think you hit the nail on the head with a few things around getting very clear on what the roles are for the different team members. And it'll change at different stages. As you get started out and you're solo, then you're going to be wearing a lot more hats. As you
Mhm.
grow, you want to start to share those hats. And each one of those hats or those roles will require different tasks. That's why at the start, sometimes it can be hard because the business owner is spread very thin
Mhm.
across lots of different roles. They are the marketing person, they are the salesperson, they are the delivery person. The goal is, though, we understand a business is only as healthy as those sub departments. And if you're not feeding those departments, or those departments aren't producing like they should be, they'll bring down the overall health. So I
Yep.
think you're sort of right on the path there. One of those early systems to really get this going, because a lot of it's just around clarity and getting very clear on what does need to be done. We talk about the system for creating systems, as you said, a little bit meta there, but it's how do you capture what you're doing? How do you make it repeatable? Where is that saved? Is there a checklist associated with that? And that's part of the first step to delegation,
Yep.
to be able to pass these essential tasks off to team members. Because a lot of people just get caught up in busy work. And, we talked a little bit about the 80/20 CEO, and Allan talks about 80/20. 80/20 is in Systemology book as well.
Yep.
And it's this whole idea of going from a systems perspective, what are the 20% of the systems that are most essential, that produce the most important result, and start there? Because it's very easy to fill your day with noise and activities that aren't really contributing to what that particular department or business needs.
Right.
So we use the system for creating systems. We identify the 80/20, and then we use the system for creating systems to then document those. And as you said, it's not always the best job. In fact, it's rarely the best job for the business owner to be doing. You get the systems champion to
Yep.
step in, one of those um, female workers to kind of potentially step in and
Yep.
go through the process of recording and capturing, and they find it very natural. That's the other
Mhm.
thing. Like, you want to find team members that are naturally organized. In fact, if you're the business owner and you don't see yourself as a systems person, maybe you don't
Yep.
like writing process, or maybe it doesn't quite connect with you, then you damn well need to make sure that you're surrounded by
Yep.
systems driven people to make
Yep.
you strong where you are not, because it is essential.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. And what I find easier, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more with regards to AI, is if you don't like to write something down, man, for $20, you can subscribe to ChatGPT and just talk to ChatGPT and say, okay, I am actually using, for example, I use Slack right now, and it's just me. But I use Slack, I use HubSpot, and then Mondays.com. So, because in your book, you also mentioned the idea of keeping I think it was the customer relation management software separate from your project management software. You should really have two systems in place, if I understood correctly, because
Yes.
if you start using one software for everything, it could get a little bit muddied. And so I thought, well, because I'm a solopreneur, why don't I just start out of the gate with two systems like that? And then when my leads come in HubSpot, I can also create tasks and everything else inside Monday.com, for example. And then I can just say, hey, here's where I am. I'm halfway through, 3/4 of the way, whatever it is, task done, complete. And then meanwhile, I'm tracking everything inside HubSpot, which is also integrated into everything else that I'm doing as well, right? But I think you mentioned that a little bit. Like if the owner is like bogged down and he's like, man, I hate documenting all this stuff, well, just speak into a microphone, record it, and then hand it off to your nerd. And I say that with kindness because I'm that guy. I like recording everything. And it's because of you. It's because of Allan Dib that I'm like, I got to think about this stuff seriously right out of the gate. I have to document everything in case if I get hit by a bus, let's face it, I'm the solopreneur. It's over. But if I start building a team, I don't have to redo this anymore because it's all documented. I could just hire somebody in and they can go into Slack and go, oh, I see what Shane was doing here. Okay, I don't need to bug him. He's on, because I'm taking off at the end of the month. I'm going to Phoenix for a couple of weeks. This is what's making my wheels turn. I'm like, okay, what happens if I had a staff and I have no system? I can't grow. I can't expand. I can't scale.
Two things. One, you're right. There's never been a better time to systemize than right now because of AI. There's a lot of tools that make it very easy to record a video, take the transcript, feed it into ChatGPT, ask it to draft a process or create a checklist, and great. Now you've got version number 1. That's a starting point. So I think that's key. It used to be worthwhile to document process and get it in place when you had to do it by hand. Now it's infinitely more cost effective that we can use the AI tool. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece is it is the stepping stone to start to grow your business and your team, is to first figure out those core essential tasks so that when you get someone on board, they're not just doing busy work, they're working on things that are actually valuable and important. And I actually think the very first hire that a solopreneur should make is some sort of administrative assistant that can come on board and take a bunch of things off your plate. Firstly, they can help to document some of these processes of the videos that you've recorded.
Yep.
And as they do that, they can then identify which ones they think they can do. And then you might go, oh, hey, this podcasting process, booking in appointments, following people up, getting the video edited, creating the show notes by running it through ChatGPT and saving that output into Google Docs. Like there's a range of administrative tasks that circle around that need to be done that the solopreneur isn't adding any magic to. The solopreneur should try and work on the highest value tasks where they enjoy it, where they add magic. You know, maybe that's working one-on-one with the clients. Maybe that's recording the podcast. Maybe there are certain things that only you can do that you really want to do, and you need to lean in on those. And then you create systems and get an administrative assistant to take the low value tasks off your plate, which then frees you up to work on those higher value tasks.
Right. I agree. One of the downsides of reading books fast, like I do, like I've read like 3-4 books in the last couple of weeks, is sometimes when you're reading an author, there's an idea in there. So I'm gonna mention an idea, and you could say, "Oh yeah, that's you," or I'm not sure if it was Bill. I think it was either you or Bill. But the idea that you have someone that's pretty skilled and you need that person, but anything less than that, you can actually outsource it somewhere else. And I don't know if that was you or if that
That
was
was
Bill that
Bill.
mentioned that. Bill.
Like Bill was saying, and he used the example of bookkeeping, and he was like, it's an essential function for doing business. It's not a core skill or something that he has a competitive advantage about or knows deeply about. Like he knows the importance, but it's not a skill that needs to be developed inside the business for the way to grow it. So he would then look to outsource that role. And there's a fine line when it comes to outsourcing around what systems and processes do you need, because the skilled outsourcer that you get should know how to do the thing. I mean, you're hiring them to do the thing. So oftentimes where you start is by systemizing what do you need to do to give that outsourcer everything that they need to do the best job for you. So
Yep.
maybe you develop systems around the way that you're sending the receipts over to them,
Yep.
or you're systemizing the monthly meeting that you have with them with an agenda, so well, here are the questions and the things that we look at consistently every single month. So it's you have to think about, because we don't want to over document as well. Like, we need
Right.
to be careful. Some people, they get caught in the systemizing trap where they're doing all of this documentation and it can
Yeah.
feel like busy work, but it takes them away from actually doing
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think,
finding that balance.
I think Bill had mentioned that with, I think it was somebody that used to work with Michael Gerber, and he might have been an ex-sales guy or something like that. And he, on his wall, was just covered with systems, like hundreds of systems. And I think in your book, you mentioned, like, really, you could probably hone it down to like 15 systems to get
Yeah.
things going. And, with your critical client flow, I think I'm
Yep.
saying it right, at the very beginning of your book, you talk about how to kind of basically gauge and just go through it systematically and then say, okay, who's going to fit in what role and all this kind of stuff. I think it's just beautiful the way you laid it out. It's almost like you're like a chef, and you're just sitting there and you're just saying, this is how you organize a business. Here's the first course, and here's the second course, here's the third, and then we're going to have dessert at the end, which is basically, um what's the word for it, at the very last chapter, where you talk about the idea of now you can actually start tweaking it. You don't
Yeah.
do it at the beginning.
Optimization, which
Optimization.
I talk about this. It's again a trap that a lot of business owners fall into, and why I think they're not the best people to document process, at least the first time round, is you're much better off just to capture what you're currently doing and just make that repeatable.
Yep.
Tremendous wins can be gained by just making your business repeatable and not having any key person dependency. If it's up to the business owner, they try and design a system and a process the way that they would like it to be. They'd
Right.
add in that new piece of software that they want to include, or the thing that they just read the other day that they know will
Yep.
improve this process. And before they know it, it
Yep.
then falls onto their lap. They're already busy. They build it up in their head of
Yep.
how much work is going to need to be done to get this done,
Yep.
when you've just got to get it done and start moving it. So
Yep.
leaving the optimization and re-engineering until last typically
Yep.
yields the best result.
Yeah, and I think that's what I appreciate between you and Allan, is you guys are go-getters. Enough with learning new pieces of software. Like, if I just spent a half an hour right now, I'm sure I can find dozens of project management software programs, customer relationship management software, websites, GoDaddy, Hozinger, like, you name it. You could just spend all your time. It's almost like shiny object syndrome, where you just keep doing it and you're like, I'm doing this because I want to build the perfect system. It's like, well, you're never going to use that software that you're paying for. So why not use what you're doing right now? And a lot of it is free. You can start today and use free trials, all this kind of stuff, and just get going. Like you said, like, start documenting what's already working with you, instead of trying to go, if I had a crystal ball, this is where I would like my business to be at $240 million a year. And meanwhile, they have no idea how to get there. No strategy in place, no system in place, no idea of maybe down the road that they could sell their business. They're just like, nah, we'll just get there. We'll just get there
A
somehow.
lot of people, they get stuck when we talk about systemization, and they think, hey, what's a very well systemized, well-known business? Okay, McDonald's. Well, let's look at what
Mm,
McDonald's has done. Let's look at the level that McDonald's has systemized to. Okay, great. I'm now going to systemize like McDonald's. But there's a few very big differences between
good luck with
you
that. Yep.
and the solopreneur and McDonald's. One, McDonald's has been doing this for 60 years.
Yep.
Two, they have a hamburger business, so they're optimizing for getting, unskilled team members to train them up very quickly to learn how to flip hamburgers. It's a very different point of view for probably 99.9% of the people listening to this. You don't own a hamburger business, so you don't need to try and systemize like McDonald's. You will start where you are, capture what you're currently doing, and over time, I also suggest that you recruit really great team members, because great team members will fill in the gaps where systems don't exist.
Right.
So the idea is we apply the 80-20, and when we capture and document things, we capture what's most likely to happen and the most probable. And then your more senior team members will capture and handle the situations where it falls outside of that.
Yeah.
So we want to have the junior assistant, people just getting started, following the set process and structure. And then, in the system, it says, if the client chooses blue widgets, we do this. But the client's chosen red widgets, and it's a little bit different. Okay, well, that's the very rare exception. Well, let's let the more senior team member handle the rare exception.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. I'm just thinking, if I don't know where it is, but have you seen the movie?
The Founder?
Yeah. Have you seen that movie?
I have. I almost recommend it as homework for business owners.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to watch it again because I think Michael Keaton is one of the greatest actors on the planet. I love Michael Keaton. And in that role, to me, he just nailed it.
Yeah.
And I think, I know you mentioned, I think it's either in your book or in one of your podcasts. But the way I look at it, if you haven't seen the movie yet already, that's your fault. That's on you. It's not on me. That's on you. But there's kind of a neat little mechanism that also worked for, obviously, Ray Kroc as well with the brothers, because they were trying to franchise it and they had a system. It was beautiful. But I think once the light came on, I think in regards to real estate as well, that kind of changed things as well. You're not just buying the whole system, but you're also buying a little piece of land as well, which I think was just mega genius on top of it. And I think he was probably 55 years old or whatever when he
had that
when
moment.
He showed up with his little milkshake maker trying to sell them a milkshake blender or whatever it was, right? And then he just saw this system that was just beautiful, right? But no, I'm probably going to watch that movie now that we're talking about it this weekend, because it's absolutely amazing.
I love, there's a scene right at the start of that movie that I often reference where they're designing the layout for the shop and they move the fryer around. They're standing on a big basketball court. They've got chalk out and they're chalking out the layout of,
and they're practicing.
The drink machine is going to go here, or let's put the counter there. And, we need to make sure that people won't bump into themselves here. And that is the perfect example of what a very raw system looks like, which is that's version number one. It should,
and that's where we're at right now.
Yes,
we're bumping into each other right now.
Yep. And that's where you start. And that's what I want people to realize. That's how McDonald's got started. McDonald's isn't and wasn't the finely oiled machine that you see today when it got started. That just takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. So maybe we can dive into a little bit, because I want to respect your time as well. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. I have my thoughts on it and my ideas, obviously, about it, because one of the things, and then I'll ask you, is with regards to bees, there's a company in Israel that's called Beehive, and they actually invented basically a system where they can actually harvest the bees inside and put them in a container and all this kind of stuff. And actually, every year, I think they said statistically, 35% of bees, basically, they just get killed. We're losing bees every year. And they developed a system where they could use robotics and artificial intelligence inside a man-made hive. And the bees actually like living in there. And if there's a mite or if there's something wrong in this section, they could fix it right now. They can take care of it. But I wanted to get your thoughts around the idea of artificial intelligence where do you think, like, is this just a fad? Is this going away, or do you think this is here to stay?
100% this is here to stay, and the changes are already significant in certain industries and revolutionizing things, and we're not going back. And it's the first time that we can achieve faster, cheaper, and better all at once by using AI. Previously, you could only pick two at any point in time, but you can now have faster, cheaper, and better because you can get things done more cost effectively, and it is impacting every department in a business, which means it affects every team member. And it starts off with things as simple as ChatGPT that is
Mhm.
speeding up any sort of writing tasks. Obviously, you're seeing it hugely affect the marketing department, but then it's the same thinking is getting applied into every department, and even real world products and very specific use cases in how the machines can interpret the data, whether that's videos and interpreting what's in those, audio, um, and we talk about Elon Musk, and he's got his Optimus bots that he's working on at the moment, which are
Mhm.
humanoid robots that will rely on artificial intelligence, and he believes in the next 5 years we'll have these at home and they will be doing tasks around the house for you,
Right.
cleaning up, cooking, all those sorts of things.
Mhm.
Uh, and the AI doesn't take holidays. The AI can work 24/7. The AI doesn't complain. And oftentimes the maintenance costs are low. So it's like a one time investment. And that's for the physical robots. There are also autonomous agents that are popping up now at the moment. You ask it to do something like ChatGPT and it comes back and gives you a result at some
Mhm.
point, and we're already seeing it. Just last night, Apple with their iPhone 16 talked about Apple Intelligence, which they've been talking about for a little while, but now it's actually in the phone being released.
Yeah.
It has access to all of your location data, calendar data, emails, everything, and you
Yeah.
can ask it to go execute and do things for you.
Yeah.
So it's just, this is, the genie is out of the bottle, and I
Mhm.
would think it's probably the most significant advancement that I can think of to date.
Yeah.
Like more than, as far as like the impact it's going to have on our lives, more than the internet, more than power. Like everything's slowly building on top of itself, and we have a network effect that we, as we start to roll out even electricity, and then the network effect of the internet, and then we've got blockchain and developments we're seeing there. Now this AI leverages off all of those previous networks, which means the impact it can have is even larger because it's taking advantage of all of these leap forwards that we've already had.
Yeah. And I'm going to make a little bit of a bold prediction here. Here's my prediction. I was going to ask the question, like, do you feel a little bit like this is scary a little bit, but that could be another question, another podcast. But here's my prediction. YouTube right now has actually surpassed Google as being the top search engine. Basically, there are more people on YouTube, believe it or not, that are searching for things to find and watch than Google itself. And obviously Google owns YouTube, and YouTube or Google has said on record that their plan in the next 4 years is to actually double their audience worldwide, like double it. So whatever they're at right now, they want to double it the next 4 years. My prediction is I think ChatGPT could almost surpass that when it comes to search engine optimization, all that kind of stuff, only because I'm like, not saying that I'm the golden child or whatever, but I do more searches on ChatGPT than I do on Google now, because I want it a little bit more in a personal tone, if you will. I want a little bit of personality behind it. Like I'll just throw something rough. I'll be like, "Hey, where is the war in 1910 or whatever. Like, when did that happen? Who are the nations around? Like, I'll just throw stuff out and then it'll compact it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just learned something right there. Because it would take me minutes, well, maybe even longer, half an hour to find an article. And after you're reading 1,000-word article or 5,000-word article, you're like, no, that's not it. You read another article, no, that's not it. But with ChatGPT, you can actually condense it to story form, and like you can just read it in like 5 minutes and you're all caught up.
Yeah.
That part, I think, eventually is going to catch up to everything else that we're doing right now.
Yeah, look, I think Google and some of the other big players, Apple, are a lot further along in AI than we all realize.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they just are larger organizations that have more bureaucracy and more privacy concerns. And, they're a bigger target. So
Yes.
in public, they have to be more careful as to how this is rolled out. But for
Yeah.
sure, Google realizes where this is headed with ChatGPT, and that's going to eat their lunch.
Yeah.
So they will be thinking, we're already seeing it with Gemini. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily yield as great a results or experience just yet as ChatGPT. But I
Right.
think the way that we search and we find things, you're right.
Yeah.
It is going to go through AI. You're going to ask the question, it's going to know what you want and your situation, and then it's going to tailor a result to you that gives you the single direct response that you're looking for, rather than
Yeah.
Google goes off to then find the piece of data or the article or the thing that answers your question, but the answer is buried in
It's
that
buried.
whole bit of content. Whereas really, I just want AI to surface just the answer that I'm looking for that's unique to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where, like you said, with all the regulatory things that are going on, basically they have to protect their data allegedly. Um, but I noticed the update with ChatGPT 4 is they used to have in the fine print, if you close out of the app, it doesn't remember the conversation that you had before. Not so anymore, my friend. It can remember conversations that I've had with it a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, because its memory is constantly updating. And it's, in some ways, it's a cool thing because it's like, oh, yeah, I remember when you searched on this website and you're asking this question, this fits in with your website or your podcast or whatever. I think brilliant. But on the other side, the dark side of it, if somebody hacks into that program, they can access all your stuff. And then now all of a sudden it's like every email, every photo, every picture, every conversation that you had in your living room. Maybe you're saying something like, you know what? That Trump is not a bad guy. Or, Harris, I think I'm going to vote for Harris today. Like, we don't know. Like, it's just a little tiny switch. And all of a sudden, a year from now or 2 years, privacy is off the books. Like, you can monitor and listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the part that I don't like down the road. Right now, it's kind of fun, but I don't like some of the other,
Yeah.
the stuff that's like, man, don't take the fun out of it by eavesdropping all the time,
Yes.
even though we know they are. So, what
Yes.
are your thoughts around that?
I think ChatGPT in particular being a younger company, and almost like Facebook did for a little while there. Their motto was kind of like better to ask for forgiveness rather than for permission, and then they would just do things. ChatGPT is a little bit the same, where they just kind of move and do, and then they adjust afterwards. That's what I was saying. Some of the Apple and Google, it sometimes can be a little bit more thoughtful around the data privacy because they're more of a target and it can open things up for them. But the
Yeah,
reality is your Google and Apple and Facebook, they're sitting on tremendous amounts of data.
yeah,
And really, data is the new oil when it
hmm,
comes to AI, because AI is effectively the refinery. It can crunch through huge amounts of data, find
Yep.
patterns and insights that you couldn't previously see without a lot of time and work and effort. Now that that's shrinking down significantly, it means the companies with the most amount of data really are going to win, because they'll know how to use that data and insight to serve up the best results based on the situation and what the person is asking for. So you're right. I think everything's going to be monitored. I mean, we're heading in a way where, obviously all of our movements online are getting tracked and stored and put into databases. They're getting a tremendous amount of data through the phone, your movements and where you're going and what you're doing and who you're talking to. Money is probably one of the final frontiers as we move into a blockchain world and digital currencies, and some of that becomes more and more transparent. There'll be full visibility into what we're doing. And I mean, that's the scary bit. And I suppose the difference from something like a China, where they really monitor and control the population, and then you look to some first world countries that, I mean, they're probably doing it anyway, but at least seemingly we have the feeling of freedom and privacy, but I don't actually know how much freedom and privacy we actually have.
Yeah, it seems like in China they're telling you what they're doing. And it seems like in North America they're kind of hiding it from us. But I want to get you to just maybe share a final thought. But when's the next time you're going to see Allan?
I happen to see him quite frequently. He lives in the same suburb I do, probably about 3 streets over, and we'll often go for a walk. So I just caught up with him last Sunday. So I'd imagine any time over the next couple of weeks, probably.
Okay. So I have his book. Tell him, and I'll email him as well. And he autographed this book for me. So that's awesome. So maybe just tell him that, remember that guy, Shane, the Solo Marketing Podcast? He got his book. So thank you for that. And I'll be sure to email him. But if you bump into him, just give him a little punch in the arm, and he'll go, "Oh, what was that for?" Well, that was from Shane from Canada. That's how they greet each other. When you give them an autographed book, they punch you in the arm. It's a new thing. So
I've now got the green light to give Allan a punch in the arm. Love it.
Exactly. It's funny because when I had him on this channel, he was because I was reading your book, he said, "Oh, I'm actually going out for dinner with Dave tonight or the next day or whatever," which is kind of funny, right? So I knew you guys hung out. But final thoughts, last question. Again, I want to respect your time, but just whatever you want to talk about, if you're just a final thought, and then I can wrap it up with a nice little bow here.
The main thing I want someone to take away from this is to re-look at a systems approach. And whether you think you're a systems person or not, the reality is systems-driven businesses deliver better outcomes for the staff, for the business owner, for the clients. So it really is a lens through which you can look at your business and get tremendous results. So if you're not a systems person, well, surround yourself with systems people, make this a focus, because it will reduce stress. It'll make things run more smoothly. It makes your business more valuable. Things compound over time. There is only upside from getting this right.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much. If you don't mind hanging out in the back, I'll say goodbye to my audience. And then thank you so much, Dave, for being on my podcast. I really appreciate your time and energy here. And I'm going to watch this again with notes. I'm going to take some notes. So thank you. I appreciate it. See you later.
It was a pleasure.
All right. So once again, that was Dave Jenyns of SYSTEMology. You can go check out his website, systemology.com. And also he has a YouTube channel, which is called System Hub. I hope I got that right. Go check out his channel there as well. And he's got actually resources on his website as well that you can actually download stuff, and then you can get to work on your on your business as well. So thanks again for watching this podcast, and I hope you subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.